All right, welcome back to this week. We have Jordan and Emilio back. Any updates on your life, guys?
In the flesh. Actually, yeah. So during the last episode, a lot of people online, I mean, of like the 15 people who reacted to her on X,
15.
a lot of them were like, oh, he's like a leftist, referring to me.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
I'm on the left. And because I use the word liberal,
Oh, yeah, that's right. I saw that.
which happened repeedly. And, I got attacked viciously. Did you guys see the comments?
No,
by
what
chance?
was it?
They called me like a Jew.
Really?
Essentially over. You didn't see those comments? Really? The ones
I think I liked
the,
I
the
saw
ones. Oh yeah,
the
I
one-
know you would. I know you would.
I did.
The one I asked you to condemn. I said, wouldn't a Christian condemn these?
What did I say?
I don't know.
I
Something
said-
something snide.
No, I
back.
think I said something that, Jesus does not condemn. There is no condemnation under Christ.
He condemns the actions of people.
Yeah.
But there is no
He threw the
condemnation under. Once you come under Christ, there's no condemnation.
So you're assuming all those people came under Christ, and they should their actions. You're just being an idiot. Got it.
I think the one comment along that line that I saw was somebody commented podcast with like a nose emoji in the middle, which I assume was like some kind of Jewish joke.
Of course, man. If you say anything remotely about like individualism or liberalism, like philosophical liberalism, you get attacked as a gay Jew. 100%.
Yeah, it's because individualism. That's what gays and Jews are about, right?
According to the woke right. Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
So I've actually been seeing that conversation get much bigger, the woke right conversation.
It's just getting bigger and bigger, which is why I'm trying to have these conversations with just even locally, because my concern is how it's going to spill out into the 2026 elections here in California. Right.
So how do you think it's going to spill out?
I think that the trend that conservative Christians here, who are usually aligned with the grassroots, are going to be called woke right. They're going to just say, it's like I see rumblings of it on X.
The
like
left won't use it though. It'll only be people within the right.
No, the left will actually start using it a little bit, I think. Well, they already call us. They already call you an extremist. They think you're woke right.
They wouldn't use the term woke right.
No, I know. But you do know what I mean? I wouldn't put it. I actually wouldn't put them past it. No, what I'm talking about is the establishment, because here in LA and California, there's a lot of tension between the establishment Republicans and the grassroots Republicans, right? And there's a lot of finger pointing about why we can never win any elections, right? And the grassroots basically says that the establishment is basically a business that runs candidates and doesn't care about winning. And then the establishment says that the grassroots are too radical for California, and therefore nobody's going to vote for them. So they have this ongoing dialectic, for lack of a better word.
So you think the establishment is going to use that to describe the grassroots?
Absolutely. I've already seen it happening in little ways. It's like earlier this year, there was a convention where the CAGOP was electing a new board, and it came down to two candidates. The current CAGOP chair, Corinne Rankin, who was part of the establishment, and then the other major candidate was a guy named Mike Morrell. He's a former assemblyman from Rancho Cucamonga. So, it's like San Bernardino County and L.A. County. And the establishment basically labeled Mike Morrell an extremist who was bad for California, couldn't help win things, was going to lose things, was too far, was just, if they would have had the word woke right, they would have used the word woke right.
But he was too far on what?
Abortion, gay rights.
And wait, abortion, so he's pro-life.
Oh, yeah, he's pro-life.
Gay rights, he's anti-gay marriage.
Yeah, he's anti-gay marriage, right?
And what's the other one?
That's about it. If you're
So it was those two big issues?
Yeah, it's basically those two big
We'll
issues.
See. We'll
So
see.
it was.
I don't think that's a parallel to the actual phenomenon of woke right.
I get the sense that the woke right is more like based on Jews.
I mean, yeah, no, that is one big aspect of it. That's one big aspect. But no, I think like that's like a traditional power conflict between, especially in a place like California.
Power conflict. You're talking like a Marxist now.
No,
I'm teasing you.
Okay, cool.
Okay, go ahead.
That was hilarious, guys. Amelia's joking.
Yeah, is that right?
No, I think that's normal what you're describing, and I've experienced that too.
Yeah, exactly. It's normal. I mean, I think
especially in California, because you are right. The establishment in California, they are not always interested in winning because they know they can't. They know that in certain areas they cannot with our current approach to elections. But that's like I think that's a separate.
Right.
topic.
I don't think
maybe
we have
the term,
another argument.
Maybe the term woke right could get used by the establishment to undermine. Actual woke right people or not actual. Let's say in a year, if I run again for any office, maybe they'll use the term against me, which I think will be hilarious. Because clearly I disagree with.
No, but
shit.
that's the insanity that comes about when you start having these conversations where you're like woke right.
Well, yeah,
he's woke right.
Well, it's not just finger pointing and name calling. I mean, these are substantial arguments,
right?
Which I laid out last time. And by the way, before we get going, I spent a lot of time last time. Really defining my position on woke right, but we didn't spend a lot of time going into your position or on your idea, your like grassroots idea of not even woke right. Let's pretend the term woke right doesn't exist. I would love to know more about you. Do ascribe the term Christian nationalism to yourself, right?
Yeah, I would easily say I'm a Christian nationalist. Yeah, that was one of the other conversations that came out of our last episode. Was a candidate that ran here in LA County.
Yeah.
He said, "Oh, is Emilio still around? That fucking clown."
Who said that?
His name is James Clark. He ran for city council in Glendale.
Uh-huh.
So he says,
"Oh, the Glendale City Council or
Glendale City Council, same area that Jordan was basically running."
Uh-huh.
So James Clark was like, "Oh, is fucking Emilio around? He's a clown or whatever." And then he says, "Is he still calling himself a Christian nationalist?"
Uh-huh.
See, and
what did I say? This is on X, by the way.
Yeah, you said, I can't remember. You said
I was like, it takes time for people to get deprogrammed.
Yeah, that's right.
It's true. That's what I think.
I
am trying to deprogram.
I know you're trying to deprogram
but I don't
me.
think it's gonna work, boys.
I'm
Wait, what's
I'm
bad?
actually deprogramming and also degrooming.
So what's bad about being a Christian nationalist?
Yeah, okay,
I mean, are you Christian?
Exactly.
Are you
exactly.
a Christian and a nationalist?
I'm a Christian and a
nationalist.
nationalist. Yes, I'm a Christian nationalist. First off,
okay, what is your prescription? What is your ideology? What is your goal? How do you see the political apparatus not working, and how do you want it to work?
Okay, so in order for the United States, the American experiment to work, we have to do what the founders said, which was take this Constitution, take these ideals, take these institutions that we've given to the future generations, but keep in mind that they will only work if the people, the people, have a moral framework. So you can't just take a bunch of like narcissist sociopaths, plug them into this system, and expect this system to continue going on. This system, the institutions that our founders created, were to mitigate basically the evil in men's hearts. Mm-hmm. They took that. They were not utopian, right, in their basic assumptions. They were. I think this. I think this is where James Lindsay would say they were realists because they said this. Now,
realists,
right? But no, liberal and classical liberals come out of the Enlightenment.
Yeah,
which also breeds eventually transhumanism. Which says
it's
that
a big ass leap, dude.
It's not. Once you start looking at it, it's like it starts because it's classical liberalism gave us guys like Schopenhauer and Hegel. They didn't come out of Christianity. Nietzsche came out of classical liberalism and the Enlightenment. The French Revolution came out of classical liberalism. You know, scientism came out of classical liberalism. What did not come out of classical liberalism, really, is a firm religious fervor that existed there at the beginning of the American experiment, that was there, that had a conscience. So the word conscience is very important, because why I'm a Christian nationalist is because that phrase answers a question of sovereignty that is built into the framework that our founders created.
What phrase?
Christian nationalism.
Got it, okay.
First off, let's look at the issues of sovereignty. Where is the highest form of sovereignty here in the material world on planet Earth and in the political and social realms?
The highest form of sovereignty?
The highest form of sovereignty. Where
I don't know.
God's sovereignty?
It's the nation. It's the nation state.
So you're talking strictly in the material sense.
Exactly. Just in the material realm. The nation state. One nation cannot tell another nation what to do, right? Because they don't have the authority. The only way that one nation state can tell another nation state what to do is to take might over right, right? It's to go in there and claim authority through power, right? So, for instance, Canada can't just tell us how to run our lives. And America, the United States of America, cannot tell Canadians how to run their lives because they're both nations, right? Okay, so that's where sovereignty caps. That's why you get like this whole tension of the globalism, where people are concerned about the UN, right, or something like the EU having a higher level of sovereignty over their lives. And you have like the Brexit movement came out of that tension, right?
Yeah, the UN doesn't have that, but the EU technically does.
That's right. So I would say, if looking in the mirror and going like, well, what do I believe? I would say, oh, I'm a nation statist. Oh, there's already a word out there. I don't have to invent a new word. It's called nationalism. Okay. I'm a nationalist.
Okay.
Now, am I a Nazi nationalist? No, I'm not a Nazi nationalist. Those guys were off the mark. Those guys were like crazy. They had
fundamentally, right?
Fundamentally, because there's another kind of sovereignty in the abstract world. In the there's like the phenomenal world, and there's like the noumenal world of ideals. You know, it's Plato's shadows on the wall, right? It's in that world, the world that we cannot touch, of ideas and values. There is also a sovereignty. And our founders point to that world in our founding documents. Even a deist like Thomas Jefferson says things like, there is a creator. Well, first off, not everybody in the world believes in a creator. Buddhists don't believe in a creator.
Yeah, I understand.
Okay. And then there are inalienable rights. Well, where's he getting that? When was the last time you touched or hugged an inalienable right? No. He's pointing to the things in a higher, you could call it a higher plane, but it's also just an abstract plane of being. So he says there's a creator, gives us inalienable rights, and then he claims that they're actually self-evident, which I don't agree with. Because if they were self-evident, we would all agree on them, right?
Not necessarily, but keep going.
Well, I mean we all have a basic agreement that if you trip and stumble, you're probably going to fall. And then some people have said,
I don't think so.
That gravity. We don't.
Boys are boys, girls are girls, but clearly that's a debate that I think is
sure. Right. Right, but I'm just saying.
I disagree. I disagree with.
Okay, see, not even this is self-evident.
But keep going.
No, right? Okay. So hold on a second.
No, so you can chime in if you want.
So there.
No, it's okay. It's a conversation. Go ahead. I think it's self-evident because we all agree on there's an agreement on morality. Otherwise, it wouldn't have gone in the direction that it did.
You're kind of undermining your own argument.
How am I undermining my own argument by saying that things are self-evident?
But we still need a law. We still need a law.
That's right. But the law is not self-evident. The law is given. The law is extrapolated or received or discovered from this abstract realm.
All right, let's keep going. I don't want to get hung up on self-evidence, but
yeah. So here's the deal: that there is a abstract realm of ideas and values, which is what every religion argues about, and even atheists argue about it, right? And that's where we get the idea of values that our founders are pointing to. Mm-hmm. So now the question is, so where are these self-evident values? Well, my answer is they were self-evident to Thomas Jefferson because he was coming from a Christian worldview. Even though he himself was not a committed Bible-believing Christian, he was like a fish in a tank full of Christianity. Mm-hmm. He wasn't. He didn't grow up in Japan.
Okay. Keep going. What's your
Buddhism.
Prescription?
Right.
What are the errors? Where are we where it's broken, and how are we going to fix it?
Okay. The basic prescription is that, all right, we're a nation, and that we are fundamentally a Christian nation in our sovereignty, right, of our values, right? Like those are
I follow you.
Those are the values that are sovereign, and unless we maintain that, this whole American experiment will fall apart, and our children and our grandchildren will pay the price.
How do we maintain a Christian state?
For me, from my point, and why I consider myself a Christian nationalist, is because it's a clarion call to other Christians to take their position as the conscience of this nation.
I don't know what that means.
It means the conscience of the nation. You said the law.
What prescriptions?
You said the law.
What prescriptions?
The law needs to come from conscience. Because that's what says what is right or wrong.
Okay, so explain what you mean. How do you want to fix this issue? What are the
Christians need to engage in the marketplace of ideas and maintain the status quo of Christianity and Christian values as the conscience of this nation.
Okay,
that's it. What part do you not understand?
What market? So just what marketplace are Christians not a part of?
No, they are in this marketplace, and they're still in the fundamentals of the marketplace. The problem is you have woke mind virus, which is antithetical to those Christian values, and you have it filtering through the institutions, right? So it's the long march of Marxism through the institutions. Sure. So they have infiltrated education, the media, et cetera, politics, et cetera, comedy, right? And now they stand antithetical to those Christian values that are at the bedrock of our society. So now they're being suppressed. Why? Just today, the Supreme Court refused to hear a case about a young boy who went to school and he was told he had to change his shirt because it said there are two genders, right? And then he was disciplined by the school, so he took it to court, and then a district court said, well, yeah, the school had a right to do that because that shirt was demeaning. But I'm going to tell you, if I walked into a school and I saw something that was anti-Christian, I doubt. That T-shirt would be that T-shirt's not.
You saw a satanic shirt, for instance.
If I wore an Iron Maiden shirt,
right. I don't know the specifics about that case, but there's a precedent from like the 1970s that was the exact same case. It was a kid wore a shirt to school to protest the war, I think, and the Supreme Court decision at the time was how political speech isn't protected in schools. So
no, but they let that action stand where they let the kid wear whatever he wanted. Was able to wear.
So they overturned
because one of the things that has been infected by the woke mind virus is our judiciary.
What did the shirt say again?
Huh?
What did the shirt say again?
The shirt said something about there are two genders.
So I mean, what's bad about that?
Well, from a Christian worldview, it's self-evident.
Nothing.
But from this woke mind virus worldview, it's not.
I mean, to me, it's just evidence of, look, we live in a Christian country. Most people won't admit to it. The country was built and founded on Christian values and doctrines and morality, like you just described, whether or not people openly ascribe to it. And the reality is, when you live in that framework, bad ideas, which woke ideas are bad ideas objectively, they get destroyed. Just like everything else that isn't of God, it will get destroyed.
So in the end, it'll get destroyed. Meanwhile, it's like the Islamic overtaking of Spain. There were hundreds of years where children were being, and just average people were being persecuted, including Christians and Jews.
Right. Let's bring it back though,
because go ahead.
You still haven't really answered my question.
What's your question?
I haven't heard what your answer is as to the fix. What I did hear is that you want to see Christians be more involved in the political sphere.
Right.
What does that mean? You want more Christians explicitly running on a Christian platform for office?
Yeah, that'd be good.
Do you want to see like the Supreme Court decisions explicitly cite scripture? Is this sort of the thing that you're talking about?
No, obviously, Supreme Court decisions need to cite law first, but those laws need to be based in Christian morality. Yes.
So
like murder, they
sure. So what is your fix? Is just inspiring more people to run for office who are explicitly Christian?
Yeah, exactly. Because we exist in a system that was built for pluralities and factions to come in and have a thing. So that is exactly what I'm saying.
So which Christians? Which Christians?
Which Christians?
Hey, well, hold on. Which Christians? Because look at the churches, bro.
And I do have a question.
Do you want those
that,
Christians?
You want Episcopalians?
Yeah.
No. First of all, okay.
He just wants Christians.
No. I want actual Christians, not people that have.
Who are actual
Who determines this? Who determines
okay.
What is,
well, okay, here's that perfect example.
Yeah.
We've all seen the Jordan Peterson argues with 20 atheists, right? Okay. Yeah. And the whole thing is like, well, that one guy was like, well, I'm here to argue with a Christian. And there's, Jordan saying,
it's very personal,
deal.
his belief.
Right.
Yeah.
No, it's not. Well, first,
every 6 months, a video comes out of somebody asking
but
that
I will
question.
tell you,
But continue.
I will tell you.
Answer my question.
What he lacks is that he does lack a Christian faith. I can tell. Mm-hmm. He lacks a Christian faith.
I don't think he's a Christian, but continue.
I don't think he's a Christian either.
Nobody thinks he's a Christian.
There were like 3 different questions in there that he could have just cited one line as a response, referring to something from I don't even remember. I was like, this is the easiest answer you can get. And he just missed it. Yeah. It's clear that he has like these little talking points that he pulls from the Bible.
He uses Christianity.
Yeah.
So I tend to be a Nicaean in the fact that I don't know what that means.
The
Nicene Creed from the Nicene Council.
But I honestly couldn't define
the Council of Nicaea.
But what does that mean to be a Nicaean?
Well, if you've been to Catholic Church, you've recited the Nicene every Sunday. They recite the Nicene Creed.
But what does that mean? You tend to be a Nicaean. What does that mean?
It means that's how I define Christianity. That Jesus rose. It's real simple.
Yeah.
Jesus rose from the dead.
Yeah.
Jesus is Father, Son, and Holy Spirit are God.
So wait,
one,
you believe the greatest miracle in the universe.
Wait. So the moment you deny the resurrection, you're no longer Christian.
Yeah. 100%.
But let's say a Christian comes up and says Jesus died for trans people because trans people are divine. I don't agree with that, people. Whoever's watching this is not what I think.
Clip it.
No, but
what do I think?
Yeah, do you want those Christians? That's Christian. That could be
those
Christian.
Those are Episcopalians.
If somebody comes up and says Jesus died for trans people and says that they are divine, I would say you are absolutely right. They need to repent of their sins and realize that they have the Imago Dei in them, which means that God made them female and male. Pick one.
You don't want the lesbian pastor to be involved in politics. You want the conservative evangelical.
Yeah, but the lesbian pastor involved in politics is not Christian. I've gone to I've attended those churches.
Well,
I'm talking about believing Christians.
But that's not a fix. How do you can't? That can't be your fix. That's not a fix. Because how are you going to judge people's morality or read their hearts? Or are you going to give them a test? Are you going to how do you do this?
Yeah, that's a good thing.
You just want ideologically in line people to do what you want to do?
That's
not a fix.
Even then, we do have people in government who present themselves as Christians and aren't really Christians. You have Joe Biden, who said he was a Catholic but was pro-choice. You have Nancy Pelosi, who presents herself as Catholic and says, "Oh, I met with Pope Francis and this," but does everything opposite to what
you have Jasmine Crockett quoting the Bible, saying she performs miracles.
People I know Kamala Harris is technically a Baptist.
Yeah, so you may have Christian nationalism right now. What do you?
Obama
what is your
was
fix?
technically
Right,
Christian.
what is your fix?
Even Obama was technically Christian.
What I am referring to
he went
is
to the Jeremiah Wright Church.
What I'm referring to is simply Orthodox Christian, small O Orthodox Christianity. That's all. Because small O Orthodox
Eastern
Christians.
Orthodox? That's what you're talking about.
I'm
telling Bible Jesus.
Yeah, I'm telling you, like the overwhelming majority, if not the plurality of Christian churches that subscribe to a Nicene Creed or anything even close to this Nicene Creed.
Well, when you say Nicene Creed, to me, you're only referring to Catholic churches.
No, that's Orthodox. Orthodox trace themselves.
Hadn't Eastern Orthodox
wasn't
the schism before the Nicene?
No. The whole schism of the Nicene Creed actually is the fact that the Orthodox accuse the Catholics of adding two words or one word to the Nicene Creed, the filioque.
What is your fix to the moral conundrum that we are in politically? What is Christian nationalism and how is it going to solve this problem?
Our only solution is we the people. We the people are the ones that make the laws. Therefore, we the people, right?
Yeah.
Need to make decisions. And I'm saying we as the Christian people who frankly if you look at and I'm talking about like Orthodox Christian institutions like the Catholic Church, like Baptist churches, like all these, if they follow up, if they remain true to their basic values like they did during the time of slavery, then they will cause cultural and social change that will reverberate through politics.
So you're just looking to shape the culture through Christian activism.
Right, but it's Christian political activism.
But only promoting the right kind of Christians, because you don't want any Baptists up there. I mean, look what they just did with the Southern Baptist convention. Didn't they? They pretty much went woke in 2021, I think.
Well, no, this is again. Yeah. There is a problem. In fact,
so we can't have Baptists. We cannot have the Baptists who are officially part of that group.
There is a great. All right,
this is tough.
I see this just turning into the equivalent of the Catholic versus Protestant wars of Europe.
Not quite.
It's like who's pure enough to be Christian?
You mean the ones the Constitution already solved? Those
pretty much, yeah.
It won't get to that level until I drag Jordan out in the streets, tell him to accept Jesus the correct way, and then beat him to death while I'm doing that.
Are you Catholic or are you Protestant? I never understood that.
It doesn't really matter.
No, to me, it
you
doesn't
grew up
matter.
Catholic, right?
I grew up Catholic.
Wait, do you go to Catholic church or no?
No, I tend to see myself as like super non-denominational, and the fact that I'll go to Catholic church and partake in.
Yeah, there's gonna be some Catholic Christian who's like, you're not Christian enough, my friend.
Yeah,
sorry.
There's always gonna be somebody like that.
We're not.
You don't really pass our.
We're
test.
not talking about doctrinal differences. We're talking about the basic values that come out.
But you're talking about
Christian worldview.
It's the fallacy of basing any sort of movement purely on identity. It ends up defaulting into purity tests.
Boom.
That's what happens.
Yeah. So your solution is to make sure that the right Christians get in, and to find out who the right Christians are. That's gonna I don't know how you're going to do that, but you're going to try, right?
No, what I'm saying is that it's by their fruits you will know them, and by their fruits usually means that they don't run around saying, "Hey,
so
come
your
on,
solution
fruits,
is just
come to the church."
So your solution is simply to promote nationalism and promote candidates.
No, because here's the deal:
promote candidates who you agree with.
If you notice, churches that accept basic woke social norms eventually lose the gospel.
Okay.
So when a church goes woke, you will find them going into a space where you start talking to like the Anglican.
So they're just added on to the list of non-Christian Christians. They're added on to your list of non-Christian Christians that you don't deem acceptable to play that role within your Christian nationalist worldview. right? You don't want those Christians.
I don't want
those non-Christian Christians, right?
Yeah, I don't want those non-Christian Christians having it, because
that's your solution to the whole problem that we have right now with woke and the left.
Because
taking institutions.
Let me ask you.
You just simply want to.
What's the solution to woke then? Solving the woke.
Let them destroy themselves, which is exactly what they're doing.
I've already made my case in the last episode.
Okay, but
I want to know more about yours.
But just make it again, because apparently I didn't understand it the first time.
Well, I think that I'm not there yet. We're not there yet in the conversation because we haven't gotten to where you're at. I want to know more about what Christian nationalism is.
I've told you what it is. It's basically Christian.
I understand what you've said so far, but I'm going to sum up what you've said. Is like, we have an identity group based on our faith. Correct?
Yes.
That identity group is getting infiltrated by leftism. Correct?
Mm-hmm.
But you still want you want to create a circle within it that is not penetrated by that. And then you want to...
Because it's a values circle. It is a values circle.
I'm not arguing against that. Sure.
Right. In fact, this identity group is based on values.
Yeah, on biblical values.
And you said, I guess you called that an ideology, right?
I wouldn't diminish your...
No. I'll call it an ideology.
I wouldn't diminish...
Because in the marketplace of ideas, Christianity is just another ideology. So I'll actually give you that.
But that's
because you're Christian.
I think that contradicts your viewpoint, to be honest, because what you're arguing for is liberalism, and I would agree with you that it's in the marketplace of ideas. Christianity is just another.
Right, but the marketplace of ideas is a Christian value.
Okay,
it's a value that comes out of Christianity.
The marketplace is Christian. That's it.
The marketplace is the marketplace as it is inherently Christian and biblical.
Yeah.
Okay, so you set out identity group needs to not only shape the culture, but actually attain political power to seek out their own ends.
Yep, that's right.
Based on
not to seek out their own. To seek out their own ends for the good of the whole group. Yes,
of all humanity.
Of all humanity. Yeah.
Right. So you want Christian soldiers to step up.
Soldiers to step up.
Church militant. Put their life, their material possessions on the line. And get into government,
loving
into the
loving their faiths and their testimony so much they're willing to die for it.
What are the limits to your proposal here? Where does it go too far?
Where does it go too far?
Yeah, where would it go too far?
Where I take you outside and flay you alive for being a Huguenot. Right? Yeah, that's where it goes too far. That's where it goes too far. That's
violence.
That's why the delicate plurality or pluralism in the American system comes out of Christianity. Because it's like the white identitarian movement starts falling apart when you mix it with Christianity, because it's like, well, you can easily say, well, Jesus was a Jew.
Yeah, okay.
And you can say, well, how about black Christians? And then you start going like, you know what? I actually have more in common with Hispanic Christians, Asian Christians, Armenian Christians, black Christians, and white Christians than I do with this white identitarian who thinks he's just blue. He's God's gift to earth because he's got blue eyes.
Would it go too far if a Christian nationalist were to pass a bill through both houses?
Absolutely not. That it would be the.
You didn't
end
let
goal.
me finish it.
That would be the end goal. Okay, go ahead.
That explicitly stated, adultery is now illegal.
Adultery was illegal.
Okay.
So yeah, adultery should probably be illegal again.
And it cites scripture within the law.
Nope. You wouldn't necessarily cite scripture in the law.
But would that be too far?
To cite scripture in the law?
Yeah.
If the person who was putting the bill forward cited scripture, that would not be too far. In the same way that if I got up...
No, if it got passed.
If I got up and quoted, why does the cage bird sing, as I was trying to get some legislation passed, that wouldn't be inappropriate as well.
Isn't that technically anti-Christian?
How? What? What's anti-Christian?
Doing what he just described.
What?
Passing a law that's just straight up out of the Bible.
Why would that be anti-Christian? Well, first of all...
actually, I have a better one.
Yeah, go ahead.
Coveting your neighbor.
Coveting your neighbor.
Yeah, if that were a law, what would that law look like? Because you would probably want that law, right? Wouldn't you want some version of coveting your neighbor to be restricted?
I would want those cultural values to be there. But I will tell you, if you went out and if you followed the line of when you covet your neighbor, it's like the story in the Bible, I believe, of Jezebel, who coveted this piece of land that was owned by this guy, and then got her husband Ahab to go kill the guy.
Yeah.
See, so then you would say, well, murder that's obviously wrong, but to want it is more. It's harder to enforce that law. So at some point,
I agree with you, but wouldn't a Christian nationalist want that law to be in place?
I think that they would do things.
I wouldn't know. I wouldn't argue for it.
No. This is what I would say. You would probably do things like create laws that would negate and de-incentivize covetousness. So, for instance, the whole structure of hedge funds, where you play around with the stock market and international currencies in the hope that somebody is going to lose, and you short your position, you get the short position against them, that should probably be illegal.
Really?
Absolutely. You're rooting for somebody else to lose?
Shorts, hedging should be illegal?
I think that should probably be illegal.
Okay.
So that's awful.
So you
because you're rooting for somebody else to lose. I mean, that's how George Soros made his money.
Here's the thing.
No, but that's how every hedge fund.
Right, just because every hedge
money.
Right, it's just like and every slave plantation owner made their money having slaves.
Shorts are illegal.
So there's a lot of different things with this. And that's why I don't think it's. I understand what you're saying. I just don't think it's practical, and it's also not Christian because you technically. Well, I mean, you just go. There's one line that Jesus says that completely, flips all this on his head. He says, give unto Caesar what is Caesar's, unto God what is God. It's essentially saying that, he's repeating in a different way that his kingdom is not of this world, that worldly things are worldly things, to not mix the two, right? So it goes even further if you want to take it to the concept of separation of church and state, that too. And then there's also the aspect of that when, for example, this is something I was just thinking about the other day, Jesus, when he talked about like doing good things, he didn't talk about being compelled by the state to do it.
Correct.
He talked about doing it from the heart. That's what makes you a good person. That's why you don't go around like, that's why we have the freedoms we have, because the freedom to do good and be with God versus doing the opposite, right? So the moment that you start legislating all this Christian morality, you're actually creating an anti-Christian government, because if you need to legislate that stuff, then it's, you're essentially creating a satanic government.
No. Okay. All right. First off, this whole thing of you can't legislate morality. Every law is a legislative act of morality.
It comes from a moral framework, which is a Christian framework, but you can't legislate it in the sense that it's. I mean, it comes from a Christian framework. It's just it doesn't work. And we saw in the 50s,
how does it not work?
Adultery laws in the 50s.
But we talked about this.
That's how this country has survived
Emilio,
for so many years.
We talked about this last time.
These laws in place.
We talked about this last time. You made that same statement that every law is moralistic.
No, every law, every policy
down to a stop sign.
Down to a stop sign. Yeah. Because what's the morality of a stop sign?
Oh my God!
Preservation of human life.
Preservation of human life, right there.
You
value life. And also, there's an order. There's order. There's countries where they don't have stop signs, and they all just kind of go like this.
India.
And they don't. They also think that there's a whole class of people that are destined to pick up crap in the street because of their karma.
Emilio is making the argument again that we need an identity group.
Yes.
Making every policy. Ideally, you would want that.
I think that would be the best.
Every policy. And every policy is moralistic, down to a yield or a stop sign.
Down to the yield sign, yep.
Right. And I made the argument last time that sounds exactly like the inverse opposite of Ibram Kendi's.
Say that again?
The equal opposite of Ibram X. Kendi's Department of Anti-Racism, being unaccountable to every other branch of government.
Oh my gosh.
Remember I made this argument and you
oh my gosh, and I told you no, and now that you're explaining it to me, I'm realizing I'm
okay. But no, but seriously,
right.
you want a group identitarian group
yes,
to be passing moralistic laws.
Yes.
That could explicitly quote scripture.
Yes.
You could make divorce illegal.
Yeah, no fault divorce.
Okay.
No fault
you just
divorce.
walked him into labeling him woke right then.
Oh my gosh.
Well, I mean, this is yeah.
Could somebody please get me a mirror right now?
And but what you
so
represent,
I can see where I'm woke right.
But Emilio is not talking about racial consciousness, right?
Yeah.
You're talking about Christian consciousness, correct?
Mm-hmm. I am talking about Christian consciousness, but I will say also race is a real construct. It's race is a real thing. It's not made up.
So far, you have not made the argument for a racially based identity group to have that political control to be the solution for the problems that you see in America.
No, I have. I told you it's a values.
Yeah, values.
It's a value.
Christian
it's
values.
An ideological group.
Yeah, right. We don't have to get into race. I'm just saying that is the superficial difference between your worldview and Ibram Kendi. If you go one step lower on that, it's the same worldview.
No, it's not.
It's just equal opposite.
No, it's absolutely the opposite worldview.
Okay, let's say.
And I'll tell you. I'll explain
it goes
why.
back to the horseshoe. Yes, it's the opposite. But
no,
it meets at the
it's
same
not.
place.
It's not. It's like that because of your spectrum,
Okay.
your polarity, your Hegelian dialectic.
No,
actually,
I reject
You're
Hegel.
actually playing Hegelian dialectics.
I am not.
With my existential reality.
I'm not trying to.
No, you are. You're playing. That's what James Lindsay. Thank you for pointing this out, because now I realize that James Lindsay is 100% a hypocrite, because he is the one fully engaging in a dialectic by saying woke right and right are they're both on the ends.
Okay,
because the spectrum he's creating is the thesis antithesis.
This is philosophy 101.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Incorrect interpretation of Hegel, which is fine. That's okay.
Okay, what is the correct interpretation?
Well, I'm not even talking about Hegel right now, and I'm
just talking about a dialectic. Go ahead.
I mean, we're not going to get into Hegel.
Okay,
we can get into Hegel.
Okay, no,
I would love to actually.
Okay, go ahead.
But not right now. We're not there.
Okay, all right, go
right
ahead.
now. Let's say you get exactly what you want, Emilio.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
We got the whole House, the whole Senate, the executive branch, all the judges, every goddamn judge is a Christian.
What kind
the
of
right
Christian?
kind of Christian.
Well,
the right kind of Christian.
Okay,
Let's
first
just say
off-
it's the right one.
First
Let's
of all,
just say you
hold on.
got it.
First off, time out. They would not be goddamn judges, because God does not damn Christians.
I'll repent for saying that later. No.
5 Hail Marys. Yeah.
Listen.
But the fact that we can drop goddamn in a conversation, but I can't say nigga Heil Hitler, that's the point that the woke right is making.
Pod's over. Pod's over.
Yeah, exactly. The pod's over. He says goddamn, and it's like we just keep on running down the road.
I think in your world, I could.
Jay says yay, nigga Heil
in your
Hitler.
world,
and then suddenly it's like shut the show down.
In your world,
shut the show down.
Listen, bro.
Go ahead.
Wow. In your world, I couldn't say goddamn because I'd be taking the Lord's name in vain. Let's say every branch of government is exactly your worldview, okay?
Mm-hmm.
For the sake of argument. Yeah. One day, those people will lose power. Let's say they lose it to another group of Christians, another sect, or just wokes, or total fucking Marxist, atheists, whatever. Let's say that happens. What tools do you think they're going to use against you? The ones that you set up?
Yep.
Well, they're not going to use Christian tools.
No.
Because the Christian tools will have grace and mercy.
That's superficial.
Grace and mercy is not superficial to Christianity.
That is not the argument I'm making.
He's talking about all the
identity
laws.
group values. Oh, look on the left here. They have identity groups and values too.
Right.
And then you set up a game with rules to play by where their group can come in and use those same tools, completely arbitrary or separate from your value system. They're going to replace those with their value system, with the tools that you invented.
All right, but here's the deal.
But do you see how that could occur?
Of course it's going to occur, because it's going to occur.
So we need to have 1,000 years of Christians running the country?
They call that the millennial.
Okay.
Or the millennium.
They
call that the millennium. So yes.
You would want to bring on the eschaton.
what I want to bring on the eschaton.
Is that what you're arguing for? Is that where we've ended?
Is this the eminence of eschaton? Okay, first off,
I would say do not amenitize it.
Yeah, amenitize. That's right. That was beautiful. You actually educated me on that. I wanted to thank you
I
for
would
that.
say that. I would go with. I would side with Eric Voegelin on that.
How do you say it again?
Do not amenitize.
Right.
Amenitize the eschaton, which is actually a William F. Buckley quote, which is summing up Eric Voegelin.
Okay.
As far as I understand that quote.
Right. So that's right. You can't amenitize the eschaton. It's kind
of. Well, but that's what you're doing right now.
No.
You just said you wanted 1,000 years of Christian rule, which would essentially be the millennia, and you would want that.
Yeah. Well, as Christians,
the woke left.
Oh, okay. Let me ask you.
The woke lefts wouldn't come in and usurp the government structure that you, in the best nature, with the best intentions, set up for them to come and usurp that. You would not do that. You'd probably do what with the woke left if you had all that control for 1,000 years? What would you do with the woke left?
Okay, well, going back to what you said about Jesus saying here, giving the taxes to Caesar, right? Mm-hmm. Okay, so Jesus in that statement did not negate Christians being in politics or Christians being a part of this world.
No, he didn't. No.
He did not. In fact, what he said, the last thing he told his disciples before he left this world was disciple all nations. Mm-hmm. He said, go from Judea, go to Samaria, go to all the world and disciple all nations. Now that disciple all nations is actually one of the kind of the buzzwords of the Christian nationalism movement. You see guys like Doug Wilson, Pastor Doug Wilson, who actually has had he's got a whole thing, Canon Press, where they talk about discipling all nations.
Okay.
Right, yeah.
Keep going.
So discipling all nation means going into the nations, all the people groups of the world, and giving them the Christian gospel, which would accompany with that Christian morality, right? Which would accompany that the law, right?
Well,
right? He is not saying.
Well, that's how.
In fact, he's saying go. Like when the Jews were sent to Babylon, he did not say God did not say, well, just hang out in Babylon until your Savior comes. No, he said that was a type for the age of the church. After his death and resurrection, until the time he comes again, we are in a sort of Babylon where we are supposed to live our lives, get married, give each other in marriage, do our businesses, right, and all that. Okay, so in fact, on your Twitter bio or your X,
no, don't read about that. No,
wait, I would do on your X bio. It does say, do not amenitize. Oh gosh, that's a lot. Amenitize. Okay, I'm gonna get it here. Amenitize the eschaton. Okay, so by progressing through history, you are not amenitizing the eschaton. You are merely doing what Christ has commanded you until the time that He is chosen to come back.
But
I have to do my part is simply to go out into the world and disciple all nations.
But your part is in America to get every seat to be filled by a good Christian for 1,000 years or whatever. So the woke left cannot penetrate the system that you set up, which gives identity groups the moral authority to dictate that every policy must match that moral authority. And that has to be an ideological test of some sort, correct? I mean, if you have Christian nationalism, every policy would have to fit within a biblical worldview, correct?
Yeah. What's the problem with that?
Okay, but I'm confirming that's what you want.
Yeah, I think that's what I'm saying. The question is, how do you test, right?
Well, yeah, how do you test? Sure, but that's not even the real question. Let's say everybody's tested and it's perfect. Okay, let's say you got it.
Okay, this is how you test it. But you look around your environment and you go,
what do you do with the people who disagree with you?
What do you do with the people? Okay,
who want the power back?
Okay,
what do you do?
All right, this is what has historically been known as the Jewish question, right?
Okay,
because it's
he's not doing a good job, Emilio. He's not doing a good job proving it's not right.
I want to know. I want to know. I want to know exactly where you're going with this. Please keep going.
The Jewish question exists because in Christendom, you have this group of people, right?
Yes.
The Jews, who stand against the values of the majority society
of Christians.
Yes, but the values of
the majority of society is Islam. But continue.
Well, in Islam, it's different.
I'm just saying the majority. It's not Christians, but
no.
continue.
I'm saying in Christendom.
Within Christendom, the
Jews.
Within
Christendom, the Jews actually flourished in a lot of places, right? Because they're a paradox. Their existence is a paradox.
Okay.
Because they stand in again their values, their belief system stands in contrast to the ideals and beliefs of Christendom.
Of the New Testament. Yeah.
Right, of the New Testament.
Okay.
So the question is, what do you do with a group of people that refuse to be assimilated into Christendom?
Now, I was thinking we were talking about like the woke left or communists, but you went to Jews. Keep going. What do you do with the Jews?
Because you're talking about minority groups, right?
I was talking about. I was talking about the woke left. I was saying.
I said you basically asked me the Jewish question, but you did because it's not about the Jews.
That's good to hear.
It's not about the Jews.
It was a second ago.
No, this is the confusion about the Jewish question. Is it's not really about the Jews. The Jews are just the prime example in Christendom.
It's just the contextual issue,
right? Because they've been there for 2,000 plus years in Christendom.
Let's not talk about the Jews then. Let's talk about the woke left. I think it's a lot
so
easier
let's put the woke left where the Jews are.
What do you do with the woke left in year 550 of your 1,000-year Christian nationalist reign, and they create an uprisal and they go against what you're trying to do, and they try to start a war, or they try to actually usurp power, or they just lie and say they're Christian and they look Christian, they act Christian, and they infiltrate. What do you do about those people in your goal?
Well, from a Christian worldview and ergo an American worldview, right? You do things like you bring them and you debate with them.
First of all,
try to convince them of the gospel.
There's no ergo there. I disagree with that, but continue.
Okay, but
you agree with that? You're a Christian nationalist.
That's your worldview. That's not my worldview.
I mean, it's a liberal worldview.
That's your worldview.
It's a lowercase liberal worldview. Yeah.
Right, but here's the deal. Here's the deal, though. Here's the problem I have with the liberal worldview, because I used to be.
Let's not talk.
No.
Wait,
but actually,
go back.
I'm trying to understand where we are going with it. I see that you're trying to kind of take apart the Christian nationalism thing and bring them into and
he's trying to make you sound like I'm
show how the
I
woke right
genuinely want to know what his goals are and what happens when someone goes against his goals.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's pretty evident at this point. I'm just curious where this is going to end.
Where does it end?
It's just peeling away.
But where does it end though? I'm trying to get to where it ends. What do you do? Are you going to use the force? Are you going to use the force of the state to answer the question for whatever group it is, whether it's Jews or woke left or black radical communist lesbians? What are you going to do with them?
Yeah, eventually, if they cross certain boundaries, you have to use the will of the state.
So if they lie. If they lie.
No. Hold on. No.
Thou shalt not lie. Thou shalt not lie.
Right. So it's a crime to commit perjury on the stand. So what they do with people that commit perjury, it's a crime to lie to the police.
So listen,
it's a crime to false. It's a crime.
You talked about the marriage
to report.
No, you talked about the marriage between the metaphysical, the abstract, and the concrete, which is Hegelian, by the way. You talked about that.
Right.
So you're saying that now it's just perjury under oath, which would be against the law. But thou shalt not lie. And if you get a Marxist who comes in and says, no, I'm Christian and I'm going to run for this office on Christian values, but really they have ulterior motives, they lied. Not under oath. What do you do with that person?
Well, let's see. I think what Donald Trump did was he actually sued 60 Minutes for deceptively editing Kamala Harris.
That's still in the works, and that's apart from it. What do you do? What does the Christian nationalist do? What does the Christian nationalist do?
That is what the Christian-infused Donald Trump, who's not really, I don't think he's a Christian.
There's a law in the books that media has to present different viewpoints, and he's using that, if I'm not mistaken.
Right. Media,
but regardless,
we're completely derailing again.
No.
Emilio,
I'm not derailing it. I'm pretty consistent here.
No, you have not. No.
I am absolutely
consistent.
Hold on
one second, because now we're just going around in circles, and it's not really going anywhere. And while this has been very entertaining to watch unfold, I think there's enough that we've chewed on this meat. Maybe we can start looking at some of the clips, or because we've been talking about this for an hour, and it feels like we're just like.
Let's just sum it up then.
Yeah.
Emilio wants 1,000 years reign of Christian nationalism.
I'm a Christian. Why would I not want that?
There you go. And he wants it to be explicitly, you would not mind if it were explicitly scriptural, defining the terms of the state.
Wouldn't mind. I'd wake up and go, Merry Christmas, Happy birthday,
cool.
Happy
That's
Easter.
Christian nationalism. Okay, I disagree. Fair. I'm a liberal.
Right.
I want to protect the rights of Christians with my own life if necessary.
Yeah.
I also want to protect the rights of communists, of atheist, materialistic communists who want to destroy you and me.
And can I tell you something?
But I'm going to stop them if they try to destroy you.
I think what you described is more Christian than what he described, to be honest with you. Because it's...
My political theory is tied to my Christian values. Yeah, sure.
I mean, we even talked about this last time, how liberalism can't exist without Christian. It's like they're,
yeah,
it's
came out
secularized,
of it.
Whatever.
Yeah.
But, let's look at some of the clips.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, let's do it.
All right,
Let's
you
do
have
that.
clips?
I got clips.
I got a couple.
Because this has been
I just got a couple of screen grabs that I want to get to.
This has been interesting, but we were just going around, and so we got into one of those loops.
Actually, okay, so the most relevant one.
Let me pull up the TV.
Oh, okay. If I could just say one thing before he pulls up these clips. Why we're going around in circles is because I don't think Jordan is being honest in admitting.
Okay. I'm not being honest in what?
You're not being honest in admitting that whatever this classical liberal worldview is no better on the face value than Christianity in being the worldview that is going to determine all the laws and all of the institutions and everything. But classic liberalism tries to play this game where they say, because we're objective, just like the news does, because we are objective and we're scientific and empirical, we've actually arrived at the truth. So we're the arbiter of truth between woke right and woke left.
That would be an inaccurate definition or description of liberalism, and perhaps it's been abused that way, understandably. However, I don't think that that's the deepest point that you can make on liberalism.
No, we're actually at a crisis point in this society because classic liberalism overtook the institutions, which then allowed the woke mind virus to permeate through them.
That's the problem, and your solution is 1,000 years of Christian reign.
Yeah, well, what's your solution? Make classic liberalism more classic.
I'm anti-utopian, and I want to protect every individual's right to seek happiness in whatever and worship their creator or the antithesis of a creator in any way that they privately choose to do, as long as their boundary is drawn at the exact point at which your rights are infringed upon.
Right, but
yeah, that's the liberal point of view.
That whole argument,
and
that whole argument of where the rights are infringed upon.
Yeah,
that is a whole philosophical argument right there.
Sure.
Because those rights are like, I have a right to animal sacrifice, or actually, I'm an Aztec. I have an ancestral right to human sacrifice. Should I be allowed to?
You don't.
No. Because why? Because the argument of the rights. Of where are the boundaries of the rights?
Where the law stops and the rights.
And how do I?
Your rights stop at the tip of my nose. And
they
that
do.
Happens with, yes. Absolutely.
Your rights stop at the tip of your nose.
That's a figure of speech. You understand what I'm
exactly.
saying?
No, yeah. I know.
Yeah, and if a democracy has established a law that protects the rights of an animal to not be sacrificed, That law is there, voted upon through the representative system in a way that allowed checks and balances to occur. And it gets tested and retested, reinterpreted, appealed in the courts. And then elections are ran on those issues.
And
that's what I want.
And then
I want
to what transcendent values do you point to?
I want the individual to choose those transcendent values.
Why does the individual have rights?
It's self-evident.
It's not self-evident. If it were,
the
Chinese Communist Party would be out of business overnight.
Okay.
No,
so
no,
is it not self-evident that Christ is your Lord and Savior and Redeemer? Is it not self-evident?
No, it's not. You need the Holy Spirit, the conviction of the Holy Spirit, to truly understand that.
Okay, that's fair. But do you not agree that the statement of fact is that Christ is your holy Redeemer?
Christ is my Redeemer, but yes, I believe that.
Okay, is that not reconfirmed in self-evidence around you in every way? Do you not see that in every...
The only self-evidence that confirmed that was that I was a sinner. Okay. That was it.
Oh, interesting. Okay. Mm-hmm. Regardless, there is something that you believe that is fundamental, right?
It was, I'm a sinner, I hurt the people I loved, and I needed salvation.
Great, okay.
To wake up the next morning.
Okay, but it's still self-evident, right?
It wasn't self-evident. Otherwise, I would have never left the church. I left the church, tried every other religion out there, including Judaism, New Age. I was a Unitarian, so I was in one of those Christian, non-Christian.
But you went astray.
So it wasn't self-evident.
In the Christian worldview, God and Christ are constants, and the Holy Spirit, they're constant.
Yeah.
They never waver, correct?
Yeah, they do not waver in the Christian worldview.
That's concrete, okay? Regardless of what you choose to do, whatever, regardless of what happens in the world around you, whatever, that is still there for you to always return to, correct?
Yes.
Right. So in our political context in the States, the Constitution protects those self-evident things. I don't understand why that's controversial to state that the Constitution is protecting this real thing that you have as an individual, the power to speak. The power to...
If it were self-evident, why would the Supreme Court think they would have the temerity? Why would they think they have the ability to interpret the law and according to the Constitution and declare something unconstitutional?
I mean, this goes back to the whole thing of what I said earlier. Give unto Caesar what is Caesar's. Give unto...
I think it's as simple as that. I do think so.
No,
we're going around in circles.
That's
we're
also
revisiting every single... We talked
I know we're going in circles here. Go to the... Here we go. Go to the clip.
You know who this is, right?
Yeah, let's roll Joel Webben.
My voice is more important.
Yep.
So I'm fine with everybody having a vote, but I should get 20. I should get 20, and then there's other people, and I'm not just talking about myself, there's other people who should get 100 and other people who should get 500 votes. Or what you could do is you could just say, no, we're actually just going to take votes from one sector of the population. And it's going to be heads of household who are married and committed to having children, furthering the next generation, and they're heritage Americans. So not just American citizens, but they've actually been here for generations back. So they have a stake in the past. They have children. They're married with children. So they have a stake in the future. So they stake in the past, stake in the future. They're working. They're land owning. They're head of household. Yes, I'm speaking of men. And those individuals will have a vote. And it doesn't mean that nobody else has a voice, but everybody else will have a voice underneath their federal headship.
Well, that's the nativists are making a comeback, eh?
No. This is really bad. Okay, go ahead.
No, you go ahead. I want to know what you heard.
I was watching that and I realized...
Everybody watching, this is deflection right here. He's trying to
use
humor
as deflection.
But it's not funny. Nobody's laughing.
No, I'm laughing. I'm laughing. All the woke right are laughing because...
Okay, what do you think? What do you think? In a constitutional,
oh my gosh.
In a constitutional republic that protects individual rights.
Yes, only landowners.
Yeah, I know what the
who
Constitution
are male.
says. Yep.
Citizens.
Yep.
Whether I should have a right to vote. Oh my gosh, that's what our founding fathers believed.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh really?
Yeah.
That's what they believe. So they didn't, create the amendment process to for people to
They
fix
didn't
that.
create the amendment process to have.
I don't think
they did not create the amendment process with the idea that everybody else is going to have the vote.
Oh, really?
So, no, they didn't.
Really, you don't think that?
Let me ask you.
Think
do you think non-citizens should be able to vote?
No, I don't think that.
Why?
Do I think that nativists in America should get more votes though? That's what he said.
So okay, so
do you think?
you don't think non-citizens should vote?
Let's address what Joel Webben stated.
He has a proposal on the table to return to a system that was in use when this country was launched, which basically you could argue that was the reason the country maintained stability during a difficult time of its birth.
I'm just curious.
So,
At what point did the vote get transferred upon people who did not own land?
It was like the 1820s or something like that. Yeah.
Right. So you disagree with that?
That they had universal male suffrage?
That non-landowners can vote. You disagree with that?
No, I disagree with them basically on that. But
so why don't you address what he said instead of acting as if you do agree with it? I don't know where you sit on what he said.
I am not going to vilify him.
I didn't say vilify him. No, you can critique what he stated. Did I vilify him? I haven't said anything about Joel Webben.
No, you didn't. But anybody who uses the term woke right vilifies Joel Webben. Instead of taking his arguments with sincerity and with an authentic heart. Let's take his arguments
with sincerity and authentic heart.
Okay, yeah.
Do you agree with what he stated?
I really don't agree with what he stated. I think the status quo of our voting system is adequate to work. I mean, honestly, sometimes, like there's that whole...
The status quo was the original Constitution, though, like only landowning men.
No, I'm talking about the current status quo.
Oh.
Where, like, my wife can vote. And my...
Well, your initial argument was that the original Constitution stated that only white landowning men...
Actually, the original Constitution did not state that.
That's what you said, though.
No, I said our founding fathers had that as... That was the position of the founding fathers.
Okay, so...
Okay, can I... Yeah. I'm just personally out of the whole thing. I'm curious why nativism is making such a huge comeback. I honestly feel like it's kind of a psyop.
100%.
No, it's because the problems in society have gotten so out of hand.
Yeah, but
we need these. We need radicals to take power.
I think
people are looking for creative solutions.
Insane people are looking for creative solutions.
That's not insane.
That's insane.
That is. Look, even if it weren't insane, it's not pragmatic in the least because it's never going to happen. It's just. It's a waste of breath to even discuss those ideas because they're not going to happen.
You're not going to vote Emilio.
No. Here's the deal. Here's the deal.
It's not going to happen.
Here's the deal. If the institutions fall apart because society has spread to the point where values are meaningless, right?
Yeah.
Then these nice little arguments about feminism and racism, they're going to go away. People are going to fall down, the Abraham Maslow scale of needs, right? They're just going to go down that little pyramid back to, I got to make sure I eat.
Can we just get back to the point here?
That is the point. That is the point.
His solution is not going to put bread on the table. Let's just say that.
His solution might put bread on the table if the house is on fire and you need to put the fire out in order to have a table.
This is how I'm seeing this. I'm going to sound super conspiratorial, but I see that we're living in a moment where the Overton window shifted, the pendulum swung.
Yeah.
Right. We're seeing right-wing ideas are more widely accepted. More people are identifying as Christians. I 100% think this is like some kind of CIA plot of like just to undermine the right wing and make everybody look extreme.
Yeah, I agree with you.
I
agree with that.
It's an intelligence operation because there's absolutely no way.
Okay, that's what James Lindsay's said.
This guy legitimately, I mean, he sounds like a very intellectualized retard.
There you go.
Okay. All right. Here.
That's really what he sounds like. That's really what he sounds like.
Now, here.
I don't know any other way to put it.
He doesn't disagree with it.
Here is my proof against that. Is that I did not get a CIA memo.
No, of course not.
I did not listen to it.
It's an op, dude.
Okay, so explain how this psyop got in my head and made me think all these things. Tell me how that happened.
Because people like this put these ideas out into the dialectic, and they manipulate a whole group of morons to think that this is somehow within the Overton window. This is not. And the only reason why they put this out there is to expand it. They only want to broaden the conversation so they can insert their own radicalism back into it, which subverts intentionally the Constitution and liberalism and individuality.
Well, yes, but what I'm saying is that this is within the Overton window of American history, because this actually is something that the founders had. So it's, if you went to school and you learned about
American enterprise, as the people,
as 2025.
No, like you said, this changed in the 19th century. Look, this changed in the 19th century. We changed this a long time ago.
It's established fact that you rarely, once something happens as far as progress or whatever you want to label it as, or the government permitting it, whatever it is, it's nearly impossible for it to move back in any sort of way. That's why Roe v. Wade was so crazy that it got overturned, because that's been how the march has always been forward. You never go move back. And the only justification was that was like, we're re-empowering the states.
I would say
that's why that's never going to happen, and it's illogical, it's unreal, and it's
only put out there to provoke.
Yeah.
And to radicalize people, to be like, that's the solution.
Or is it out
the
there?
world's crazy, so let's be crazy.
And that's also why this guy from Patriot Front, Thomas Russo, is going on every major podcast, even moderately right podcast. Like, he was on the PBD podcast, and I'm seeing him. I'm like, why is this guy there? They've been saying that his group is a psyop, and I've been like giving them the benefit of the doubt, but now it absolutely looks like they're a psyop. He's hitting every major podcast, especially now in this moment where our president is being so unbelievably effective with everything he's doing and dismantling everything that the CIA has been pushing ideologically. And it's been proven when USAID, when they exposed all of their influence agenda.
Yeah, this is perfect fuel for the left. And you're the one defending it. And I don't understand how you could defend this.
Why would I defend that? Because that actually his statement provokes discourse.
Yeah, that's pushing the Overton window. It's just designed to provoke. It's just designed to provoke.
It is okay to provoke discussion within the Overton window, because that's how you come up with creative solutions.
You're arguing he's not being sincere.
No, he may be sincere. And honestly, I don't know the future. This may be the thing that happens again, because you said things progress. That's not how history works. History doesn't just magically progress towards something, and then once you've crossed one Rubicon, you can't go back. Otherwise, slavery in this nation would have never been abolished.
Back to what he said.
Hold on. Now, it was very hard for slavery to be abolished. We had to have a civil war, and then it was 100 years of segregation that kept those same values in place.
Deflection.
This is not deflection.
Go back to what he said. We're talking about the clip. What did he say?
He said something that sounds radical to you guys, because you're basing it on the status quo of 2025.
Do you own land?
I do not own land.
All right, so I can vote. You can't. I get 20 votes. You get 1?
You get 0, technically.
Yeah. Sorry, bro. I own land, bitch. Deal with it.
All right, and
deal with it, Emilio.
That makes me so mad.
I'm going to vote for liberals.
I want to take you outside and flay you open.
I'm going to vote for conservative.
Just like a Huguenot.
That would inadvertently blow up, because a lot of liberals, a lot of liberals are upper middle class.
Well, left.
No, but see, you guys are basing it on somebody's thing. I'm basing it on the good of society.
Yeah, but dude,
it might be very good. And what I'm saying is that I'm actually more willing to listen to that guy say that, than to see how gay marriage has become like an institution.
There are a lot of landowning leftists in California, who are head of the household. And they're going to get 50 votes, and you're going to get none. You like that idea?
I tell you, if that would end abortion, I might just go with that.
You think that would end abortion?
It's not going to end abortion.
Emilio, you think Hollywood would vote to end abortion? They own more land than you, dude. That's what he said. That's the republic he wants. And you're saying, oh, that's good because it provokes.
No, I did not say. Okay, so you said you would die you would give your life for somebody like him to have the right to say the things that he's saying.
Yeah, I would defend it to my death.
Okay, you'll defend it to your death.
His ability to speak freely to my death.
Okay, great. I actually think
that would suck because my kids would resent that forever.
Yeah, exactly.
But continue.
So I think I'm actually more open-minded than the average person out there because I'm actually willing to entertain him. So not only am I willing to die for him to have that right to say that, I'm also willing to investigate his perspective.
We just, in 2 minutes, we investigated and we very clearly determined that under that system, your vote, you wouldn't get a vote, dude.
Wait, but can I just add, why did you specifically choose that clip?
Because it's so clearly...
Because it's woke right.
Well, yeah, that's woke right. Yeah,
he's woke right.
He's collectivizing.
I am not woke right.
He's collectivizing around Christian consciousness. That's exactly what he's doing.
Everybody
he didn't know, but it's Joe Levin.
You know who collectivizes around an identity?
Can you just explain who
liberals.
he is? Because I have no idea who he is.
I don't know everything about him, to be honest.
You don't know everything about him. You don't know where he's coming from.
I don't have to know everything about him. I don't need. It's tangential. It is tangential.
If you actually understood where he's coming from.
Do you know more about Joel Levin?
Yeah,
he'll answer the question better than I.
He's a Christian scholar?
No, he's like, I think he's, if I know him right, he's like a post-millennial. Excuse me, if I recognize him right, he's a reformed Calvinist with a post-millennial attitude or eschatology. He's very Christian. He's very traditional. He is concerned about the dangers of extremes of feminism and the woke mind virus in our society and what it's doing to the basic institutions of family and religion and also our economic structures that are based on those things.
All that stuff's pretty reasonable. Why does he sound like that?
Because that's his fix. That's his game.
No,
I'll
tell you why he sounds so radical to you.
It's not even radical. It's just retarded. Like,
all right, but again, if it's retarded, then George Washington and Thomas Jefferson were retarded.
They existed in a time where their ideas were radical. The ideas that made this country, that founded this country, were absolutely radical for their time. Nowadays, wait,
time out. Were they absolutely radical for their time?
I mean, would you say they were idealists? Had there ever existed a government like America's up until America existed?
Yeah, there had. In fact, that's what they talk about. They were basing it this government on previous republics, and they were trying to address
which one specifically.
The Roman Republic, the Greek
but the Roman Republic was authoritarian
at times.
No, it became
mostly the Caesar system.
It became more authoritarian because society started falling apart. That's what happens.
Mostly,
when society falls apart,
there's never
authoritarian figures usually step up and pull it back.
But the Roman government was a polytheistic government, never assumed that rights were God-given.
They didn't have. I don't think they really had a concept of rights in Rome.
So there you go. There's never been a government like America's until America was founded. That's why America was radical.
There hasn't been one. You're right, but it was founded on these ideals.
Right. It was a progression from things, but yeah, it was something new. That's why they called it the American experiment.
So why is he retarded?
He's not retarded. I'm saying he is applying wisdom from the past and
why are you calling something that would disenfranchise you and other people like you personally? Why would you even remotely defend this when it doesn't even work in your interest?
So is the only thing that counts in public discourse is my 100% self-interest? I'm not a narcissist.
We already covered this.
I'm not a narcissist sociopath.
Hollywood would vote. They would have exponential power over you because they have more land. And all they have to do is have kids. They're like, hey, I'm the man.
No.
I'm the head of the household.
Hollywood already has.
It would be the equivalent of having presidential elections decided by the popular vote. Okay. It would just be LA and New York deciding every election.
Yeah, okay. Hollywood already would get more votes than him.
Hollywood already has exponential power over me.
Okay, this wouldn't help you at all. This would not help your Christian nationalist worldview at all.
How do you know?
Are we going to just take the land away from the liberal elites? Are we just going to take it from them? Are we going to deem them not heads of the household if this idea gets in place?
No, different kinds of politicians would probably get into power, look, especially in places that were more conservative, like Texas.
So what you're saying, he did have, it went a little bit beyond just being a landowner, right?
It was head of household.
It was head of household. It was also like you having to prove that you had a connection here. You weren't like first generation, right?
Yeah, right. Natives.
You'd been here for like a couple of generations. So it's,
yeah.
I don't know. It's just.
Yeah. The Hollywood legacy royalty are going to have a ton of power. They've been here for several generations. You're screwed, dude. If that gets into place, that's what you want.
No, first off,
or you're willing to entertain it.
First off,
and you're defending his argument, and I'm literally showing
why I'm defending his.
I'm showing you what's going to happen.
Why I'm defending his argument is because I would rather entertain that possibility for the future than seeing the Republican Party kowtow to the interests of the gay Republicans.
Who owns more land in California? Republicans?
Gay Republicans.
Yeah.
No, gay. Yeah, no.
They do. They own
a lot. They own a lot of land. They own a lot of land. Gay Republicans. Two gay guys.
So wait.
Double income. Who do you think is up here in the Hollywood Hills?
So this conversation has devolved.
Emilio, why don't you pull something up now?
Yeah, you can. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Here, I will pull up this right here.
we there's a point where the discussion gets good, and then we start going around in circles.
I've already owned
like,
this
all right. It goes in circles because Jordan's not being intellectually honest.
Yeah, why am I not being honest?
Because you are holding your perspective as 100% proven already.
My perspective, 100%.
Yeah, 100%. You called Joel Webbin an idiot because he entertained a different structure based on what the founders had.
No, he didn't.
That's what he's doing.
No,
you don't think he's speaking in good faith?
None of the founders had been here for generations. None of them would get as much vote as Joel Webbin here if they were thrust into the contemporary context here.
They would not. Right. Okay.
So, okay.
Actually, they actually,
whatever.
Actually, they would.
So I guess under their purview it would have been European, right? Of European descent.
No. Actually, one of George Washington's motivating factors was the fact that he was not considered British; he was considered an American colonial.
Sure, yeah, but I'm just saying.
So no, he actually would have said, yeah, in fact, that's why they had to be born in the United States in order to be president.
Sure.
So they already had a nativist. They have a nativist qualification, an age qualification in the Constitution for the president. So these things are not like unheard of.
And it hasn't been.
And you also have one. You have one. So you have one that non-citizens cannot vote.
So how am I being? How am I being dishonest?
Pretend I'm a non-citizen.
Okay, we're going right back into the same thing.
No, just pretend.
Well,
make all of your
being dishonest, but
right? Because make all of your arguments, but I'm now a non-citizen.
Huh?
Pretend I'm a non-citizen and try to make all your arguments.
Come and be a citizen in America.
So this guy over here
that would be my argument. Come and be a citizen in America. Are you going to work?
I think that's stupid.
Yeah,
this is the argument. That sounds retarded.
Sorry, you're not a citizen. The laws don't apply to you. I don't understand.
You sound like woke right.
Well,
that's the game. That's the woke right game.
Well, this is dishonesty, and you're projecting onto me.
That's not dishonest. Okay, let's move on.
Don't move on. You made a point that for some reason, because I think the law of the citizenry should only apply to the citizenry, that makes me an authoritarian in some way. Whereas this guy, who you're defending, wants to give more rights to people not like you. And you're saying that should be more entertained.
What are you talking about? More rights not like me?
Yeah, you don't own land, dude.
Oh, yeah. You're right. More rights. No, less rights to people like me, you mean?
More rights for people not like you.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. Correct. Okay.
Yeah, that's what you're arguing for. You're saying I'm being dishonest because I think
right,
laws of the citizenry should only apply to them.
Right.
That makes no sense,
the laws of
Emilio.
the laws of the citizen.
So are you arguing? Wait. What are you even making? What point are you even making?
Let
with
me
that?
ask you.
No. What point are you even making with that? Do you even think? Okay. Do you think that non-citizens should vote or something?
No, I've told you I am fine with the status quo.
Then why are you why are you saying that I think rule of law being
because
a fundamental tenet.
This is why I'm being intellectually honest, because I am saying that the current status quo I agree with, but I also have the ability to realize that the current status quo may not be what we need because there are serious problems in our society that the current status quo might inadvertently be causing.
Yeah.
And I'm willing to fix that root.
Are you also
problem.
willing to say that this wouldn't solve it?
This could solve it.
No, it
couldn't.
Oh my God.
You guys don't know that. You guys do not know that.
Well, you wouldn't be able to
nor do you know that allowing non-citizens to vote might actually solve it?
I don't care about what solves it. I care about the procedure and protecting the rights of individuals.
Yes, but I care
if
about...
I only cared about the solution, it would degrade very quickly. Because I am just a man. And I am fallible.
I know, but now you're getting caught up in this principle of whatever we have come up with to preserve individual rights at this moment is sacrosanct and cannot be questioned.
Yeah, it's the Constitution.
The Constitution is a flexible document.
It will always and has always protected individual rights.
But those individual rights have not been fully defined. Miranda rights weren't even defined until the Miranda case in the 1960s.
Understood.
Those individual rights that were so self-evident, it took almost 200 years for the Supreme Court to go, wait a second,
because
maybe the police should say this exact phrase.
Because they set up a process by which we can get closer and closer to meeting that ideal.
That's right. So I am willing to entertain that that's a solution that's on the table. When you're creative problem solving, it's like a brainstorming session. When you're brainstorming, you
might as well put Nazism on the table. You might as well.
Gay marriage
solved the Jewish question. Did he not? Did he not?
This is what I'm saying. If gay marriage is on the table,
he's arguing for that.
If gay marriage is on the table, then this is on the table.
Hold on.
We're gonna bring that up later.
I don't think that's Nazism.
No. I took it to an extreme.
He took it to an extreme
on purpose because he said, "Hey, we need to put it on the table." This is you and I.
Nativism, but I don't think it's Nazism.
I don't think it is either. I was using that as
hyperbolic. Okay,
yeah,
gotcha.
on purpose because you were saying, "Hey, if that's an idea to address the issues that we had in the past or that we have right now, that should be on the table. Let's burn all the trans books. Let's outlaw trans books. Let's do it.
I mean, I'm not
let's
against
burn
that.
it. No, let's burn it.
Let's
make a party about it, and we can,
and then we'll invite all of our Jewish friends. Right? No, come on.
No, come on.
No,
come on. It's on the table.
No.
It's on the table.
Now you're making leaps here.
It's on the table.
No, it's like I saw this guy. What's his name?
It's on the table.
I call him Misfire Patriot. Remember these two diplomats that were murdered here at the embassy?
Yeah.
Right. So he posts, this is what I'm talking about. The Holocaust is right here with us. I'm like, 2 Israeli diplomats being assassinated outside their embassy by an extremist who is a Latino pro-Palestinian guy, obviously with mental health issues, is like, that's the start of the Holocaust? You sound like the people who say that because that guy had a gun, we should get rid of all guns and the Second Amendment is going to kill everybody. That kind of extremism I do have a problem with. But you know what? I did not report him to X. I just called him out of line. So I get
That's fair.
I mean,
yeah, I get. So
people generalize all the time.
I will even say what James Lindsay has the right to say woke right, but I don't think he's being intellectually honest, and I think he's being hypocritical, which brings up my point here. Okay.
Let's go.
So this whole thing, James Lindsay actually blocked me on X.
Yeah. So I heard.
It's sad because we were actually,
You guys are homies.
Well, we're on team no trans. So
he's on team no trans.
Oh, totally. He's like a champion of like the D-trans movement, and
is that
no? He has done great work with that.
Is
he's
that
done
what made him leave the left?
No.
What made him leave the left?
Because he's a pretty logical guy.
He realized what was happening in the universities.
Yeah, and he saw the crazy logical and irrationality that was happening in the universities. He's a mathematician. He's a very logical guy.
But he saw it in the new atheist movement.
Right.
He saw like the woke feminism pretty early on in that. And that's how he realized what was going on in the universities. And that's why they wrote those fake articles.
What fake articles?
He faked a bunch of academic articles. I think like 30 or something, and 11 of them or some number got actually published.
Them to,
they got peer reviewed and published.
Right.
But they were just making shit up, talking about how like dog parks in Portland perpetuate rape culture among men, stuff like this. Like they actually like quoted Mein Kampf and just replaced everything with white men, and they got an award for that.
Wow.
Yeah, and he recently did the same thing for the woke right, quoting Mein Kampf, and he got published for that
in one journal
in a large Christian
journal.
Nationalist
That when I heard
the American Reformer, right?
Oh, which I have that delivered to my. Why
are you being so facetious?
Because that was not the win that everybody thinks it is. That paralleled the win that he got against the woke academics. That was a win against the woke academics.
I am describing what James Lindsay did,
right?
And he literally reworded Mein Kampf to go against the post-war consensus and pushing Christian nationalism, and he got it published. And then they kept it up because they said, we largely agree with this argument, even though we understand that it was being being manipulated. Correct? That occurred at the American Reformer.
You make it sound like they published all of Mein Kampf.
No, they did not. He reframed Mein Kampf.
He really cherry picked all the concepts of Mein Kampf.
He did the exact same thing.
And then put it into a Christian framework.
You sound exactly like the queer theorists who attacked him after it was exposed what he did.
He's gay.
Oh my God.
I'm kidding.
I think this podcast is nearly over, boys.
No, come on. All right.
No, seriously.
No.
That's what happened to him, and now he's realizing what's happening on the right, and he did the exact same thing to the woke right.
No, I think he had one success in one sector of the woke, and then he is part of this liberal establishment that has like it that supports gay marriage. Frankly, that's Emilio, the best way to. That's Emilio, the litmus test.
Is that your line? Is that the line?
I do.
Gay marriage is the line?
That is a line.
Well, we
for
can
me,
solve that anyway.
Well, here, in fact,
Go ahead.
This is the thing. Okay, so James Lindsay. He actually blocked me because I made a thing about according to your definition, the founding fathers would be considered woke, right?
Yeah.
And then his only response was retard, which is not an argument. Now to be fair,
he doesn't care.
No, of course he didn't have to respond at all. But the fact that he just responded with retard, and then there was a little bit more back and forth on some of the channels, and then at one point I just noticed I couldn't repost any of his bull crap. So then he actually came out with a whole dissection of why the founding fathers were not woke right.
Yeah.
Right? Okay. So here's one thing he said. The woke right, on the other hand, are collectivist. Whether by culture, nation, clan, kin, race, or other forms of community, they believe collectives bound on some level by involuntary servitude are not only completely natural states for humanity, but also necessary. Okay, so that sounds like a decent philosophical statement, right? But then this is where he goes. He goes, as the enlightened elect of these collectivist theories, they accept the mantle of leadership of their designated collectives, which they tend to hide behind. Now he's in the next paragraph, he's going to give some examples of that.
Okay.
Radical members hiding behind innocence and name only is a very woke trait.
Yeah.
So that's how he defines it.
Agreed.
Radical members hiding behind innocence and name only is a very woke trait. Think feminists hiding behind all women, or Christian nationalists hiding behind faithful Christians, or TQ hiding behind LGB.
Okay.
That's where I go, dude, you're woke.
Why? Because of the LGB thing?
If you have LGB anything, you're suffering from the woke mind virus. LGB, LG, LGB, LGBTQ, LGBTQIA.
Anything that's not heterosexual.
Anything that is not heteronormative.
Heterosexual. Right? I don't even like that word, but yeah.
Right. And I'm using their word. Heteronormative is oppressive to any of those identity groups.
Okay.
So gay marriage is only legal in this nation because of woke ideology. It's based on heteronormative oppression, or breeders, as we're often called, not allowing gay people who are born that way, who have an immutable trait, to have the same human right, an individual right to marriage.
Yeah, the problem is that in the States, we give benefits to people who are married. There are a lot of benefits to being married, like materially. But marriage, under the Christian concept, is purely a relationship between your wife, your spouse, and God.
Marriage is a biological concept.
Oh, okay.
Marriage is a biological
concept. Is it not a Christian concept? Is it not a Christian concept?
Let's see.
Hindus
have marriage. Islam has marriage. Sikhs have marriage. Buddhists have marriage.
I'm talking about your version.
Every other.
I mean,
every other faith.
There's also polygamy. There's also child molestation, which could also be. You could also argue that that's biological, but like what?
Okay, but I will say polygamy is more in line with biological realities than gay marriage, because it's male, female, or female, male. So it's still based in biological reality. That's one of Lindsay's big things. Is based means based in reality. Well, reality says only a male and a female can procreate and create children.
Right.
And that's what a marriage is about, because it is the institution around human sexuality, procreative human sexuality, that creates and stabilizes family structures, because it bonds a man, a father, to his children through his wife. And that creates social stability, so that the family unit is not, there's no such thing as a nuclear family. The family unit is nuclear to society.
Okay. The point, right? I understand. So actually, I understand what you're arguing. I don't think that marriage is biological, because
it is biological. Is it not based in, what is marriage based in?
Marriage is.
What's marriage based in?
But back to what I was saying is that there are benefits to getting to.
What are those benefits? Why are those benefits there?
There are benefits given by this.
Can I just before we get to that, I'm just interested. Why are you making an argument that marriage, like as a Christian nationalist, you're broadening the argument beyond Christianity for marriage? And you're going with this like globalist idea of marriage, and you're bringing in India, the country that to this day India and Pakistan will have a 12-year-old be signed away to marry a 40-year-old dude.
Well, that's
biological, dude. It's biological.
No. Because in that state, it's biological. What Christian? I'm sorry.
Only in India is it biological.
I'm sorry.
Race realism.
I'm sorry. It's a biological reality that an 80-year-old man can impregnate a 12-year-old girl and have a child.
Okay.
That's just biological.
Emilio.
Is it moral?
Emilio.
Is it moral? Well, again, in India, maybe it's moral.
Why are you making an argument against Christianity?
Because in a Christian moral framework, that is outside the bounds of marriage.
I can't even.
That's outside the bounds of marriage.
All right. So back to my original point. I'm sorry. Is that there are
benefits,
material
benefits, right?
And you can't discriminate. As soon as the state gets involved with marriage, which I believe should be purely religious,
yes,
in my opinion, I don't think the state should have any function within marriage. Sure, it could identify civil union or whatever term you want to use, but I think there should be a secular recognition of it and then a religious one.
Right. So that's a woke. That's a woke mind virus.
No.
conclusion.
No,
absolutely.
Because I actually don't.
disagree with
I think churches should be able to say, we do marriage. The state does not do marriage. And if you want to get married as a gay couple, I'm sorry, you can't do that here.
Well, it's how the Catholic Church does it. They don't recognize gay marriage.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't even be a sponsor to somebody in their confirmation if you aren't married in the church. They don't recognize civil unions. So
there you go.
That's
right.
how, that's how it
in
should
the Catholic
be.
Church. That's in the Catholic Church, right? Yeah.
But every church does it differently. I want to protect every church's ability to marry. But
the
if
church
the
should
state
be able
comes
to have
in,
its own authority when it comes to marriage, and the state can have an authority, but it's completely separate from the actual institution of marriage, and it should be it's somebody's religious freedom to not recognize somebody's marriage should be also preserved.
Okay, so you theoretically support
I do not support
polygamy.
It. I don't.
Polygamy.
No.
Why not?
What I'm saying.
You don't support polygamy?
I support the.
Why would you not support legalizing polygamy if gay marriage is
I don't
also...
personally support it. Is that what you're asking?
No, I'm asking you, would you theoretically support from this legal framework that you've set up that there are benefits that are in the state?
Yeah, that should be equally distributed amongst individuals.
Right. Then why
not distributed?
Why cannot a polygamist get multiple marriage licenses? They should be able to get multiple marriage licenses.
No, because the state would only recognize one. If the state, if the representatives
only recognizes
actually,
one.
it's
why
it's based.
what is that based
on?
on?
It's actually based on what
What's
the people.
That based on?
It's based on what the people want.
Oh, okay. It's based on what the people want. So
now, but because the people are sovereign, because the people are sovereign.
Yes. Do you agree with gay marriage?
I don't. I want a church to determine that. I don't want the state to interfere with that. If a gay couple is in a union and we have a straight couple in another union that gets benefits from the state because of that union.
Okay, and then if we put like a
you're interrupting me. You're interrupting me.
Okay, go ahead.
Then the government, under my principles of liberalism and individualism, the government can't discriminate against this union and this union.
Or a polygamous union.
Here's a question
or a polygamous
in regards to that, because there's a usefulness to a heterosexual couple versus a gay couple. A heterosexual couple can actually increase the population, thus increase productivity. A gay couple, yeah, sure, they can have babies by whatever the fuck that process is.
By heterosexual couples.
Yeah,
being
exactly.
Paid to
they can buy
that.
their babies or whatever.
Yeah, it's very weird.
Yeah, very weird. So, I mean, there's definitely a benefit. Shouldn't heterosexual couples benefit more than gay couples since there's a usefulness to society?
Yeah, I mean, sure. Yeah, I think there could be tax incentives for having more kids, for instance.
No, but
whatever. A negative tax return for every kid you got.
No, but that's what I'm saying is that marriage benefits are not there because two people love each other. Marriage benefits are there because of family structures based on biological reality of a male and a female.
Yeah, but you can't. But the state cannot discriminate against that
yes,
gay couple.
Yes, it can. Why cannot not discriminate? You actually brought up popular sovereignty.
Yeah, I did. Yeah,
and popular sovereignty. Basically, by 2008, popular sovereignty had outlawed gay marriage in all its forms in over 75% of states.
Yeah.
Right? Okay. Yeah. And then one case went all the way to the Supreme Court.
Correct.
And everything was overturned.
Correct.
Right. And then the popular sovereignty was completely dismissed because of woke ideology. And then all these people
proto woke. I would say it's proto woke.
No, it was woke. It was called social justice warrior back then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I don't think not when that occurred.
No, it wasn't in the woke mind virus is just the current name for it.
It wasn't in the limelight. And I think a lot of those people were behind it. I agree with you. Okay. Actually, I agree.
Do you know that the state of Colorado was turned into a Democrat operation to protect or actually to establish and protect gay marriage?
Okay.
The entire operation of Obergefell was a operation to overturn popular sovereignty using the wokeness of the Supreme Court. And both Hillary Clinton and Obama and all of the Democrat establishment basically lied to the population and said, we are for traditional marriage. And then they said, well, we've evolved on it after they got into power.
Right.
So that was a woke operation from top to bottom because it was based in intersectional identities, oppression of heteronormative power structures that deny two men who love each other or two women who love each other from the societal benefits and affirmation that breeders get.
So your entire criticism of James Lindsay's post centers on that.
It does. It's kind of like, hey, James Lindsay, you've got a point. Oh my gosh, what stinks in here? You farted so bad. James, like you're sitting in your own shit.
So you would never...
What are you doing? Why don't you clean up your shit before you start going out and telling me that I'm a radical when you're the one who wants to destroy institutions? I'm not a conservative. You're not a conservative.
He didn't even bring up marriage in that post.
No. He didn't.
said the TQ or hiding behind
No. He did. But that whole TQ LGB, the whole separation is about gay marriage and trans rights. Those are the two major those are the two defining issues. So you'll have the whole like log cabin, homocon, LGB faction. They will fight against trans rights, but they will not do anything to deconstruct or roll back gay marriage.
I thought
rights.
I thought
or privileges.
I think you're maybe reading a little bit too much into it, because I thought that the crux of his argument was that these minority extremist parts of these movements are using the totality of everybody else to as a face to push their extremism.
Right. And
so
what
inner circle is using the outer circle.
No, that is such a piss ant. Frankly,
you agreed with them up until the LGB thing.
No, I didn't agree with him up until the LGBTQ
but you said he was making good
thing.
Points.
He was making some good points. Yeah, there's some concerns over here about like the white identitarian movements. And then I go like, wait a second. He's sitting there talking to Dave Rubin about this stuff.
Yeah, you wouldn't talk to Dave Rubin?
I wouldn't. No. Why would I give Dave Rubin the time of day?
Because he's
he's what? He's not conservative.
I would say he's conservative.
Oh, absolutely. Was he conserving?
Wait, isn't he a liberal?
Is he conserving marriage? Is he conserving the family?
He's more similar to me. Yeah.
He's a classical liberal.
Yeah, he's a classical
liberal.
He's
a classical liberal. No, he's not even a classic liberal. He's a woke liberal.
He's not woke.
No, a classic liberal.
He's not woke.
A classic,
just because he's gay.
A classic liberal.
And he did something that you deem to be immoral by having those kids, right?
A classic liberal does not get married to a man.
What?
Or have children. Pay a surrogate to have children so that they can have a pretend gay family.
You don't think of anything more liberal than that?
Yeah. That's liberal. That's not classic liberal.
No, it is classical liberal.
Leftist woke liberal.
No, that's like late 90s liberal. Like
it's late 90s liberal.
That's not a late 90s liberal.
Yes, it is.
No, it's not. A late 90s liberal is getting married.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, that's impossible because gay marriage wasn't even legal until
they're living in a relationship.
Until the
Hillary
2000s.
Clinton, during one of Clinton's last conventions, they literally played YMCA and had the fucking pride flag everywhere. There's a video of her like dancing with all the gay dudes.
Yeah, even Trump plays YMCA.
That's Hillary Clinton.
Exactly. Trump has
his last convention.
Trump, a classic liberal, unfortunately suffers from a bit of woke mind virus.
No.
Absolutely.
No.
The whole gay thing is woke ideology because it's an identity. Right?
Only if you politicize around it. Only if you essentialize a group.
It is inherently politicized by being called gay. The gay movement was a radical political movement. Do you know who Harry Hay is?
Listen, you're not. No,
do you know
I don't,
what the Stonewall riots are?
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, Harvey Milk.
Yeah.
These
I disagree with a lot of these people you're talking about.
That's right.
Sure.
It wasn't like two Spartan warriors who were sodomizing each other
it was part of the thing.
Who were sodomizing each other on the beaches of Greece after their win in a battle. Those guys were not gay. Those guys were engaged in some kind of homoeroticism, and then they went home to their wives.
Yeah, that's not
who
gay.
they considered.
Yeah, right.
Actually,
let me blow you, bro. It's not gay. Come on, dude.
No, actually, by taste standards, it would be called.
I'm just gonna lick your
bisexual polyamorous.
By Tate standards,
it would be called bisexual polyamorous.
Back the Spartans didn't do that.
Back then, it was just considered like,
right.
just going to war.
So, his whole post was about how the founders were not woke,
right?
But you're saying they are woke.
Oh, well, no, he said other things here. Let me point out something else he said here.
All right. Well, let's move on to a clip, actually.
Why don't you move on to a clip? Because he said a whole bunch of other stuff. Like one of the things he said is that the founders were realists, not idealists. I'm like, that was actually not a smart thing to say. Because the founders were radicals.
They were. I mean, you just disagreed with me a moment ago when I said that.
You were saying they were radicals. Okay. That's why I asked you that question. Did you think they were idealists?
So and you said they were they're very much grounded in pragmatic
but
reality.
But they were idealists.
No, they were very much grounded in pragmatic reality.
The pure pragmatists in that conflict were the loyalists who thought that they could stay part of the British kingdom, of British Empire.
We could argue about that.
The American Republic.
The American revolutionaries were radicals. That's why they were considered traitors.
This is. I'm just going to play a very small clip. It is out of context, but I will explain the context right here. It is a clip from Orrin McIntyre's book, The Total State. And when he says the total state, he is acknowledging, or he's citing Carl Schmitt. Carl Schmitt, who we were talking about before.
I love Carl Schmitt.
He has no idea who Carl
I just
Schmitt is.
Googled him right before you said.
Okay, great. He was a Nazi philosopher who essentially justified the whole program to defeat liberalism writ large and to replace it with their own style of authoritarianism. That's essentially it. Right. And I'm just explaining that on like a very high level. In this book, in the previous chapter to this, Orrin makes the argument that because if our rights are really so self-evident, why did we even have to write them down in the Constitution? He made that argument.
Man, I made that argument.
Yeah, I know.
And you know what? I didn't even hear that argument from Orrin. I just made that argument from being a Christian.
So you're saying that we don't need to have our rights actually written down in the Constitution.
No,
because you did make that. You
do
made that argument earlier.
Because they're not self-evident. They have to be discovered.
So you're disagreeing with Orrin then, okay? So
I am,
you're saying it should be written down in the Constitution because they're not self-evident?
Yeah. Okay, so I'm actually disagreeing with that.
Okay, cool. Let's just keep going.
Okay,
here.
yeah. Let me see what he has to say
to what is commonly called classical liberalism, including the idea that the political leadership of a country is selected by a democratic process of debates and elections. Second, we need to address the fact that Schmitt was a member of the National Socialist Party of Germany. So was Werner von Braun, but his ideas got America to the moon. This is deeply unfortunate. But if we want to better understand the flaws of our own system, it helps to see it from the outside. And Schmitt, whatever his very serious faults, is one of the most effective critics of the liberal understanding of politics. So we'll take what is valuable and leave the rest. In his book, The Concept of the Political, Schmitt asserts that the idea of a large group of people with mutually exclusive values and radically different cultures coming together and working out all of
it cuts right away.
Yeah, sorry. But the important part is that, I mean, you could go and listen to the book or go read the book. It's fine. What he's doing there is the exact same thing that the woke left do, where they cite radicals, they cite Marx, they cite Hegel, they cite Lenin, Mao, and then like I'm specifically talking about Paulo Freire. Are you familiar with Paulo Freire? Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, we talked about him last time. How do you say his name?
Paulo Freire.
Paulo Freire. Freire. Whoa. It's a tough one. It's like 2 D's.
2 R's.
Yeah, I know. But it's like it's very soft D's. He wrote Pedagogy of the Oppressed, constantly quoting the most radical people. He says that Castro wasn't radical enough. He should have a system more similar to what Che was doing. And woke left people are constantly saying, hey, we're just taking the good from what these thinkers are saying, and we're applying it only the good parts. Okay, that's exactly what he's doing here. And he specifically goes into how the Constitution, liberal democracy, is a totalitarian state. And that's the whole point of the book. And he's using a Nazi. He's
saying what again? That
liberalism is the totalitarian state.
Oh, liberalism is the totalitarian state?
Yeah, right. Exactly. The one that gives you free speech, the one that gives you free expression, the one that allows you to travel freely, to work with whoever you want.
Okay, no,
no, he's serious.
He's being a contrarian for the sake of being, or is he purposely misconstruing?
And he quotes other elitist Italian elitist philosophers, Mosca.
Wait, let me guess at what he's saying. So he's saying, kind of from picking up what just the little that I heard, because I haven't read.
It's not much. I didn't show much on purpose.
Okay, no, that's fine. I saw it was like a whole audiobook. Yeah. So he's basically saying when you get something that's like a multicultural state that comes out of liberalism.
Multiculturalism is different than liberalism, but yes, continue. I understand what you're trying to say.
He's kind of basically saying that somehow that turns around and becomes a totalitarian power structure that then suppresses. Right? Is that what he's saying?
He's saying that the liberal order in itself is totalitarian because it's basically locked us into this power struggle where certain people can play asymmetrically over others. And then that concludes in what we're dealing with right now with the woke left. And he's basically saying we're going to fight fire with fire. They created an authoritarian state. Well, now we have to take it back. In a nutshell. Mm-hmm. From a Christian nationalist point of view. But he's quoting a Nazi in order to make this justification.
Okay, well, so let's take these points.
And that's exactly what the woke left do.
Okay, let's take these points separately.
And hold on, one more thing. And with Paulo Freire, James Lindsay just came out with a New Discourses podcast, and he goes into what woke right is. Not even woke right, what woke is. And woke is critical consciousness. Or in the case of the woke right, it's Christian consciousness, not just Christian, being Christian, but consciousness, where your entire identity, your group, your in-group, your out-group are all defined on that. And it can't, and you, like you would say, you would rather have an ideological test or some sort, I wouldn't know how you do it, to assure that the people who are gaining power are actually matching your ideology in a way that would allow your worldview to be dominant, right? Right. That's what he's describing here as well. And that's what Joel Webben was describing as well. You know, we want to make sure that only our group is going to be able to actually maintain power. And they want it to be a specifically elitist one. Now, you could make the argument that the founding fathers also made an elitist argument by instituting some of the things we were talking about before. However, I don't think I don't think that was their goal necessarily. I think they were just kind of working within the means and the structures that they had available at the time. And you know, we could get into all of it like we did, but they gave us the tools to allow better access to the rights that are inalienable to all people created equal, all men. Mm-hmm. Now, my point is that critical consciousness is what he is doing, just like the left do. And they're simply using that outer circle, the less radicals, to play the front line, to be the front line for their extremist agenda, their radicalization. And they're even so willing to question the fundamentals of the state, the fundamentals of the Constitution, of individuality, saying that those concepts themselves are totalitarian. And they're going to quote radicals in order to do that. And they're going to manipulate a big group of people who watch Blaze News with Orrin McIntyre. He got on Blaze News. I have no idea.
Do you know who else was on Blaze News?
Oh,
Dave Rubin.
Dave Rubin? No, he's not.
Look, he's associated.
Based on all everything,
not anymore.
Based on all this, I'm just like thinking, and this is like unrelated a little bit.
Okay.
How do we avoid a fucking civil war?
Oh, they want it. They want it. And that's the eschaton. That's the eschatology. They want to create a conflict so biblical and large that it will see through. Whoever comes out on top is going to reign for a long time. Okay, they want the conflict.
Okay, so first
because
off,
it is Hegelian.
Okay, so first off, this eschaton that you're describing that is amenitizing. Did I get it right?
Yeah, you did.
Okay, good. I'm learning. Actually, this thing that is actually a natural cycle. Have you ever heard of the fourth turning?
Yeah, I know.
It's actually, and if you read the fourth turning, and by the way, the guys who came up with this could be described as classically liberal.
Sure.
Okay. They were just they were taking like this kind of a objectivist view of history, trying to find some patterns and whatnot. But they say that there is a cycle that where two values regimes are going to come together, and then one values regime does become dominant. And they pointed out that happened during the American Revolution, during the Civil War, because the values regime of the North became dominant.
Yeah, so far liberals have won.
Classical. Well, see, I would say actually so far Christian views, because he also said that these founding fathers were coming from their frameworks. And that's the argument I've been making is, yes, their framework wasn't pure classic liberalism, because pure classic liberalism would have been more like Darwinism, right? Where they would have removed God completely out of it.
No,
but
liberalism doesn't remove God. I don't know what you're...
No, classic liberalism, the Enlightenment ultimately removes God from things.
No, it allows you to worship your God.
Right, which removes God out of it, because it says it's just a coexist bumper sticker. You believe that? Jews, you believe in God. Islam, you believe in a God. Well, you know what? I don't know who's right. So it creates the status quo of agnosticism.
Do you want? Yeah, exactly. And I think you're arguing that the state should say what's right.
No, I'm saying
which is what Oren would agree with. Which is what Carl Schmitt would agree with. Which is what Ibram Kendi would agree with.
I'm saying is that if you just leave that as the status quo, you will descend into madness. So yes, there does have to be a dominant value regime that comes in and maintains the order. And the only value regime that has maintained that order, that delicate equilibrium of all these different perspectives about spirituality, is the Christian worldview, because it's the only one that has the grace and the mercy to understand that we should have Christian charity for our brother. It's Paul saying, what did you say?
But hold on. But you're saying we should have Christian charity for our neighbor, but at the same time, like right. I don't want to say you support Oren McIntyre and his argument and citing Schmitt, but you're not disagreeing with it.
I'm not disagreeing with him, and I'm not even.
He didn't really say much in that clip.
I'm not even condemning him for quoting Schmitt, because anybody who quotes...
He just quoted a Nazi.
Quoted a Nazi. That's all.
In support of replacing the Constitution because it's a totalitarian document. That's what he did. He didn't just quote Schmitt. It's one thing to quote someone and be like, yeah, we can see the insights to Nazism and what occurred there and look at it objectively. No, he has an agenda. And that's to overthrow the Constitution.
Oh, okay. Well, first off, I'm a constitutionalist. That's
why I think you're still savable. All right.
No, let me tell you why. Go ahead.
On that note, since we got to a kind of we got it.
I just have one thing to say. No,
all right, say it real quick.
All right. First off, if quoting a Nazi is bad, then quoting Heidegger
He's supporting what the Nazi said. He's supporting.
But using Heidegger to support your worldview, say a classic liberal worldview.
You don't have to use an abstraction.
Also Nazi.
You don't have to use an abstraction to make your point. He just did it. He just quoted the Nazi.
Yeah, but he also pointed out Werner Braun, Werner, what's his name?
Werner von Braun.
Yeah.
Right. So then
also his technology was
so
used
you're
to
arguing
defeat,
in favor of Project Paperclip then, to bring Nazis in and it doesn't matter what they did. The fact that Werner von Braun's factory strung up Jews you're okay with that, the fact that Project Paperclip occurred then.
Well, let's see. I guess it's part of American history. So
it is part of American history.
Well, if I want to revise that part of American history, I must be woke right.
What do you mean? No.
If I want to question the Constitution,
you're being insolent.
I must be woke right.
You're being insolent.
No. Okay. We were almost there. We were almost there to a
Just remember
point.
you're a constitutionalist, which means you're a liberal.
No, it means I'm a Christian because the Constitution reflects the Christian worldview.
We already talked about this. It's a liberal.
I know. Thank you so much for coming by.
I know. I would say we could come back, but I don't know if his wife will let him.
My brain is fried.
I'm going to text her right now.
I feel like
you don't have my
gotta
wife's
let
number.
Jordan come back. I'll find it.
You will never have my wife's number.
I will find it just so I can get you back in here.
My brain just blew up again. I appreciate both of you guys coming through again. This is great. I always learn something, many things actually, from watching you guys discuss. So it was great.
And I'm just having this conversation because this storm is coming to California. I know I will have a target on my back.
That was
because you might have a target too.
I don't care, but
you will have a target on your back.
I always have a target on my back. Yeah. I would like to have this conversation someday about the implications of how this will apply to California. If we could make it more specific, because I like the theoretical aspect of it and like talking about the ideas. I think it's cool too if we can understand the practical aspects of it too. You know, if you guys want to plug your stuff, want to do it right now, or I could always just use it from last time.
Oh yeah,
you just use it from last time. No, anything new you want to plug?
Just follow me, Irrational Henry. I got 3 different legal things going on right now in California. But people think that I'm left. People think that I'm literally on the left.
He is not left, by the way.
I'm a conservative.
He is, yeah.
I'm looking. Is this my camera?
Yeah, this one.
I just got a trans activist arrested for filming minors in a bathroom.
That is true. He did.
I just got a DSA member, a Democrat Socialist, caught in a lie because his friend attacked me on the street, and his friend is getting charged right now with battery. And then what else do we have going on?
The
right
law
now?
case.
Oh yeah, and then I'm suing the school district because they're hiding information about a trans psychologist who's married to a trans child, or not. She's not trans. The surgeon does at Children's Hospital LA. Her name's Johanna Olsen Kennedy. So I filed a PRA FOIA request into the local school district for her wife, who is a trans man, who's a psychologist, who I believe is referring students to her for medical interventions, and I just sued the school district. So you couldn't get more activist and conservative than me. I'm just, however, a liberal, and I would protect the rights of people to have any position they have as long as they don't inflict on my own.
The thing is that it goes back to that old meme of like the line just moved.
Yeah.
So Emilio, anything you want?
Yeah, you can just check me out at the Emilio Show on X.
All right, check him out, folks.
The Emilio Show.
It's fun as always.
And I'm an artist.
He's an artist. I learned a lot. As I said, I appreciate both of you guys coming out. And let's if you have time, we can maybe do this again.
Yeah, talk to his wife.
Is this all performance art right now?
We could do it.
This is all performance art.
No, it's not performance art.
Your Christian values are performance.
We could plan it. We could plan it where we do it every like couple of weeks, so whenever we have time, so that there's no pressure, and we all have. You guys.
I'm going to a Turning Point USA on the SPLC hate list, so obviously I'm woke right.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
So. You're on the SPLC hate list. Well, I think that's a badge of honor. Honestly,
all right.
Southern Poverty Center. Southern
Poverty Law Center.
Southern Poverty Law Center. That's right. So yeah, I'll be at another
Open Society.
Okay. All right. Well, appreciate you guys.
Yep.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah. Appreciate you.